had my fill, my share of losing.
Elvis Presley died today. He was 42. He was found at his home in Memphis, not breathing. His road manager tried to revive him. He failed.
Elvis was not a well man, and I'm staggered at the number of possible causes of death. Most of his organs were about twice the size they should have been. He was severely constipated, and he was taking numerous prescriptions.
There have been several stories about the legends of the world, and in every single one of them, Elvis Presley is almost always at the pinnacle. This man was no ordinary singer. Tales by the fireplace paint a picture of a creative who could do everything the industry required of a star in all facets. From his birth in a shotgun shack in East Tupelo, Mississippi, to his passing in a mansion in Memphis, Tennessee, and through all the struggles and triumphs in between, the life of Elvis Presley is a fascinating story, one that many believed never really ended due to the grey areas surrounding his demise. Even now, 47 years after his death, there's still so much to learn about this man who touched so many lives.
Really, Elvis was all about the music, and people did not get that. People try to complicate it. The music was so much a part of his life that in sharing his music, you lived it with him.
Perhaps because of his humble beginnings, Elvis was always accepted by his fans as one of them, an honor that no amount of fame, riches, or celebrity could change. Elvis gave unprecedented access and sincere thanks to his fans throughout his life, even when those same fans made it impossible for him to live a normal life. In the sequence of this video, we will explore the life of Elvis Presley, starting with his birth and early life, and the heady first days of fame as a musician. Follow along as he serves his country in the army, then returns to the United States to embark on a new phase of his career, this time as a film idol. Experience again the flamboyant spectacle of the 1970s concert years. Early life. There were people named Elvis before him, but nobody could be named Elvis after him without it being an act of acknowledgement and homage.
So this is where Elvis was living when he was in high school, right?
Yeah, he was probably in the 9th, 10th grade, but towards his last year, he started dressing pretty flamboyant.
It was his and no one else's. He was born in the city of Tupelo, in one of the poorest counties in Mississippi, a place of cotton fields and mills, limited job security, and hand-to-mouth subsistence. His father Vernon was a sharecropper and sometime truck driver. His mother Gladys, a seamstress, a woman who, in Southern parlance, didn't meet a stranger, a font of warmth and good heart. Elvis idolized her. Gladys was 21 and Vernon was 17 when they married, but they both lied about their ages. Gladys said she was 19 and Vernon said he was 22. Elvis was born less than 2 years later on 8th of January 1935, the firstborn of identical twins, and with his birth came a love for music, something everyone around him growing up saw and helped him explore. His brother Jesse was stillborn. When Elvis was 13, Vernon moved the family 100 miles to Memphis, Tennessee, in search of work. "We were broke, man, broke," Elvis would later recall, "and we left Tupelo overnight." On Elvis's 11th birthday, his parents bought him a guitar with the help of his uncle Johnny Smith and Pastor Frank Smith of the Assembly of God Church, which the Presleys were now attending. He learned some basic chords. However, while Elvis did play rhythm in the 1950s, he never progressed further as a guitar player, content to let the guitar become more of a prop as time went on. When you have a voice as good as Elvis Presley's, you are not motivated to learn more. Instead, he concentrated on improving his voice to get it where he wanted, to be able to sing the bigger songs, like Are You Lonesome Tonight, It's Now or Never, both from 1960, and songs such as My Way in the 1970s, just to name but a few. This was a function of him sucking up music from the radio and jukebox, close harmony singing by the Ink Spots, the Southern Gospel Quartet, the Blackwood Brothers, and the R&B singer Roy Brown, his particular favorite, whose smooth vocal style would be a formative influence and whose 1947 R&B hit Good Rockin' Tonight Elvis would cover for his second Sun single in 1954. At Humes High School, where he went, he grew his hair long and slicked back when everybody else had crew cuts and dressed in pink and black. He was just different, his school friend Red West would remember. It gave people something to do, to bother him. When she pressed him on whom he sounded like, he repeatedly answered, "I don't sound like nobody." After he recorded, Sun boss Sam Phillips asked Keiska to note down the young man's name, which she did along with her own commentary. Good ballad singer, hold. Elvis cut a second acetate in January 1954, I'll Never Stand in Your Way, and It Wouldn't Be the Same Without You. But again, nothing came of it. Not long after, he failed an audition for a local vocal quartet, the Songfellows. He explained to his father, "They told me I couldn't sing." Songfellow Jim Hamill later claimed that he was turned down because he did not demonstrate an ear for harmony at the time. In April, Elvis began working for the Crown Electric Company as a truck driver.
She had been warned when he was coming by to get the job. Don't take his appearances into account. He really is a good boy.
His friend Ronnie Smith, after playing a few local gigs with him, suggested he contact Eddie Bond, leader of Smith's professional band, which had an opening for a vocalist. Bond allegedly rejected him after a tryout, advising Elvis to stick to truck driving because you're never going to make it as a singer. The star emerges.
I've hungered for your touch alone.
In the summer of 1953, he walked into a local studio, Memphis Recording Service, intending to make a recording as a birthday present for his mother.
Actually, in my day, he was long hair, combed back with grease and a ducktail.
Lots of it.
He always wanted to be a musician.
The studio was owned by Sam Phillips. He was a pioneering figure with a particularly enlightened view of race relations, a prickly subject in Memphis in the 1950s. He recorded all sorts of music in his studio, but had a particular love for blues and R&B. He'd made recordings with artists such as Howlin' Wolf, B.B. King, and Junior Parker, which he'd leased to record labels in Chicago and Los Angeles before setting up his own label, Sun. At a time when music was rigidly divided by race, Phillips is credited with perhaps the most prescient statement in the history of rock and roll. If I could find a white man who had the Negro sound and the Negro feel, I could make $1 billion. It sounds too pat to be true, but Phillips certainly realized that black music was popular with many young whites. It was the artists' race that prevented their music from reaching a wider audience. This was one of the things that made their meeting at Phillips' studio was such an important moment in history. Elvis paid $4 to record 2 songs on that afternoon he visited Memphis Recording Service, My Happiness, which had been a hit for the Ink Spots, and a Lachrymose ballad, That's When Your Heartaches Begin. After he'd gone, a note was appended to his name, Good Ballad Singer, hold. A few months later, he returned to the studio to make another $4 recording, with his eyes now set on a singing career. Phillips was sufficiently impressed to invite him back, this time accompanied by 2 local musicians, Scotty Moore and Bill Black. They worked on a couple of ballads and country songs, and at the end of the session, Elvis started vamping on That's All Right, a country blues song written and originally recorded by Arthur Crudup in 1946. With a bluegrass song, Blue Moon of Kentucky, as the B-side, the record was released on Sun Records in 1954. Sam Phillips took the first pressing to a local R&B radio station and a DJ named Dewey Phillips. After one play, the switchboard lit up. Dewey called Elvis to interview him on air. "Mr. Phillips, I don't know anything about being interviewed," Elvis said. "Just don't say nothing dirty," Dewey replied. The interview went well, but at the time Elvis's record hardly set the world alight, failing to make the national charts. However, it was his performances with the band, on stage and on national television, that ignited the Elvis phenomenon. The trio played publicly for the first time on July 17th at the Bon Air Club, Elvis still sporting his child-sized guitar. At At the end of the month, they appeared at the Overton Park Shell, with Slim Whitman headlining. A combination of his strong response to rhythm and nervousness at playing before a large crowd led Elvis to shake his legs as he performed. His wide-cut pants emphasized his movements, causing young women in the audience to start screaming. Moore recalled, during the instrumental parts, he would back off from the mic and be playing and shaking, and the crowd would just go wild. Black, a natural showman, whooped and rode his bass, hitting double licks that Elvis would later remember as really a wild sound, like a jungle drum or something. Soon after, Moore and Black quit their old band to play with Elvis regularly, and promoter Bob Neal became the trio's manager. From August through October, they played frequently at the Eagle's Nest Club and returned to Sun Studio for more recording sessions, and Elvis quickly grew more confident on stage. According to Moore, his movement was a natural thing, but he was also very conscious of what got a reaction. He'd do something one time, and then he would expand on it real quick. By early 1955, Elvis's regular hayride appearances, constant touring, and well-received record releases had made him a substantial regional star from Tennessee to West Texas. In January, Neal signed a formal management contract with Elvis and brought the singer to the attention of Colonel Tom Parker, whom he considered the best promoter in the music business.
Colonel Tom Parker saw Elvis Presley for what he could be, and as his personal manager, launched him on the royal road to stardom.
Elvis and Colonel Tom Parker. It was both a stroke of good fortune and a cruel twist of fate that Elvis should have got involved with Colonel Parker, a carny, a huckster, shrewd, greedy, and callous, the man who would make Elvis a star and, according to several schools of thought, eventually be a major figure in his destruction. Of course, he wasn't really a colonel at all. His name was not Tom Parker, nor, as he claimed, was he born in West Virginia. He was actually born Andreas Cornelis van Kuijk in Holland, entering the United States illegally when he was 20, a deception that would have been revealed had he ever allowed Elvis to realize his dream of coming to England. He worked as a barker and sideshow peddler in a traveling carnival. One stunt was to spray sparrows yellow and sell them as canaries. Another he borrowed from the showman P.T. Barnum. Barnum had trouble getting his customers to leave his exhibits, so he put up a sign on the door saying, "Egress this way," charging an extra nickel, reasoning that most people would not be aware that egress is another word for exit. Parker became a well-known figure in the South. In 1948, the governor of Louisiana gave him the honorary title of colonel, and from then on, he instructed everyone to address him as such. By then, he had left the carnival behind and moved into managing country and western artists and promoting country music shows. When he saw the effect that Elvis had on his audiences, he offered Sam Phillips $35,000 to buy Elvis's recording contract. Parker himself did not have the money, but he persuaded a major label, RCA, to front the cash, at the same time becoming Elvis's manager. It was a handshake deal. The colonel took 50%.
So I did my part, Elvis did his show, and we were lucky. Great talent, we had a great show and a lot of fun.
Parker cared little for Elvis's music. He saw him as a commodity, a paycheck, and he was right. At the early Elvis shows, he would move among the crowd, cigar between his teeth, selling autographed pictures for 50 cents each. Playing on the controversy surrounding Elvis, badges would also be on sale saying, "I love Elvis" and "I hate Elvis," both produced by Parker. As a carny, Parker would draw people to his sideshow promising dancing chickens. He'd throw feed on a hot plate, and the chickens would jump around. Elvis was to become his dancing chicken. No matter how detrimental to his long-term career, Elvis would bow to his every decision. The colonel had brought him riches and recognition beyond his wildest dreams, and Elvis would forever be bound by gratitude and obeisance. In 1958, at the height of his popularity, Elvis was drafted into the U.S. Army. He spent 2 years stationed in Germany, returning with a new haircut and a new career. He had appeared in 4 films before going into the Army, including Jailhouse Rock and King Creole, and he harbored a desire to follow in the footsteps of his role models, James Dean and Marlon Brando, as an actor. Parker duly obliged. striking a movie deal whereby Elvis, and therefore the Colonel, got a piece of the movie money up front. Hal Cantor, who directed 2 Elvis movies, Loving You and Blue Hawaii, would describe Parker as one of the sharpest con men I've ever come across.
Love me tender, love me true.
But Elvis's ambition to be a serious actor was thwarted by the pablum he was contractually obliged to appear in. The 27 films he made in the 1960s were, for the most part, formulaic musical comedies, vehicles for increasingly mediocre songs that drained him of any musical credibility. It was not until 1968 that he would resurrect his musical career with the live TV special simply called Elvis, leading the following year to him recording From Elvis in Memphis, the sessions of which would produce 2 of his most timeless hits, In the Ghetto and Suspicious Minds. He was untouchable now, the Colonel his gatekeeper, secluded in his own world with his coterie of boyhood friends and hangers-on, the Memphis Mafia, Southern boys like Elvis who liked riding motorcycles, big cars, guns and chasing girls. Not in Elvis's case that much chasing was required. He had created his own world. He had to, as the singer Johnny Rivers put it. There was nothing else for him to do. The cultural rebellion brewing beyond the closed gates of his mansions in Memphis and Bel Air passed him by. He was a patriot, a proud American, invited to the White House in 1970 by Richard Nixon, who presented him, with no discernible trace of irony, with an honorary Bureau of Narcotics badge. Elvis presented Nixon with a mounted Colt 45. Then, alas, he found the one.
It was difficult. Elvis did get a little bit lost and basically he felt he was getting older.
Elvis's complicated love life. For decades, the world has recognized Elvis for his incredible talents. And while several people tried to get a sneak peek into his life, many aspects of said life remained shrouded in controversy, one of which was his love story with Priscilla Beaulieu.
I mean, he spent more time kissing women in the
Yes.
crowd on the lips than he did singing. I mean, was that difficult to watch?
Yeah.
The story of Elvis and Priscilla Presley's relationship has been told in countless books, documentaries and films, including 2022's Elvis and most recently Sofia Coppola's Priscilla. Elvis Presley and Priscilla Presley, formerly Beaulieu and Wagner, were married for 6 years, from 1967 to 1973. The couple met for the first time in 1959, when Elvis was 24 and Priscilla was 14. Elvis Presley passed away in 1977 at the age of 42, just a few years after their divorce. It was a good life, Priscilla told People of their romance in 2021. It was different, but it was ours. Priscilla and Elvis's story begins before they actually met. At the time, he was the biggest rock star in the world, and she was an 11-year-old listening to his first record at an Air Force base in Austin, Texas. 3 years later and 5,500 miles away, I would meet him, Priscilla wrote in an essay for People in 1985. Priscilla and Elvis reportedly met in 1959 at a party in West Germany. How did the two Americans end up at a party in Wiesbaden? Well, Priscilla's stepfather, who was in the Air Force, was transferred to the base there, and Elvis was serving in the army. Their age gap was pronounced, which Priscilla touched on in her essay. When we met, I was an impressionable 14-year-old. He was 24, she said. According to Priscilla, when he found out she was in 9th grade, he responded, "Why, you're just a baby." In 1967, Elvis and Priscilla got married in Las Vegas after he proposed to her the year before. The ceremony lasted 8 minutes. Speaking to Walters in 1985, Priscilla said that the wedding was encouraged by Colonel Tom Parker, Elvis's talent manager. Presley's manager put the pressure to marry and marry soon. "We'd been together for 6 years, she said. Elvis and Priscilla's daughter and only child, Lisa Marie Presley, was born 9 months after their wedding.
As much as he wanted to be married and have a family, I don't know if he was ever cut to be married.
However, when Priscilla was still pregnant with their baby girl, Elvis told her that they needed to briefly separate because he was going through some things. After Lisa Marie was born, Elvis reportedly stopped being intimate with Priscilla. Priscilla told Walters that she believed Elvis struggled to square his image of her as a little girl with her as a mother. According to Country Living, she also wrote in her 1985 memoir, Elvis and Me, that Elvis once told her that he had never been able to make love to a woman who had a child. Priscilla eventually left Elvis in 1972. "I had to take responsibility for myself," Priscilla told Walters. By leaving Elvis, she said she found Priscilla.
He was the love of my life, truly. If anything, I left because I needed to find out what the world was like, really.
She went on to become an actor, best known for her time on the show Dallas. The next time the world would hear from her, it was her expression of shock over her former husband's passing.
It seemed like it was forever, for him to tell me, and I'm going, "What?" And he goes, it's Elvis. And I knew right then and there that something horrible had happened.
Early demise under controversial circumstances.
These are the medical papers relating to Elvis's autopsy, and together with other information I've gathered, they provide numerous clues as to how Elvis lived his life, and they also unlock the reason for his untimely death.
2 weeks from now, 47 years ago, millions of music lovers wept to the news that Elvis Presley, the king of rock and roll, had passed away. He was only 42 years old, and a bloated, fading version of the once beautiful man whose rhythmic hip-swaying earned him the nickname Elvis the Pelvis. His girlfriend, Ginger Alden, found him unconscious, lying face down in the master suite bathroom on the second floor of his Memphis mansion, Graceland. Elvis was taken by ambulance to the Baptist Memorial Hospital, where the medical staff was known to be more discreet than the far closer Methodist South Hospital. Once there, doctors struggled to revive him without success, and Presley was pronounced unalive at 3:30 p.m. Later that afternoon, a team of pathologists, Doctors Eric Muirhead, Jerry Francisco, and Noel Floredo, conducted a 2-hour post-mortem examination. At 8:00 p.m., Dr. Francisco, who only witnessed the autopsy, acted without the consent or agreement of the other 2 pathologists in announcing to the press that preliminary autopsy findings indicated that Elvis's death was due to a cardiac arrhythmia and that drugs were not involved.
Basically, it is a natural death and due to the cardiac arrhythmia, which is an irregular beating of the heart.
Almost everyone dies as a result of a cardiac arrhythmia that precedes the ultimate stopping of the heart.
This statement was subsequently demonstrated not to be the case. Indeed, the other 2 pathologists later admitted that Francisco was covering up the real cause of death at the request of Elvis's mortified family, who were concerned about the singer's reputation. After all, how would it look if the rock star who President Richard Nixon awarded a special badge from the Bureau of Narcotics and Dangerous Drugs had died of a drug overdose? When the toxicology report came back several weeks later, however, Elvis's blood was found to contain very high levels of the opiates Dilaudid, as well as Quaaludes. The other 2 pathologists, Muirhead and Floredo, eventually revealed they also had found evidence of severe and chronic constipation, diabetes, and glaucoma during their examination.
Almost everyone dies as a result of a cardiac arrhythmia that precedes the ultimate stopping of the heart. The key question is, what causes the arrhythmia?
Elvis actually had a passing that is quite common, albeit an embarrassing one. Elvis was sitting on the toilet, straining very hard to have a bowel movement, a maneuver that put a great amount of pressure on his heart and aorta. Thus, he likely died of a massive heart attack and keeled over onto the floor. But Elvis was not suffering from garden variety constipation at the time of his passing. Indeed, his medicine chest was filled with amber-colored, white-topped vials of medication in doses no responsible doctor would have prescribed. Presley was a long-time abuser of opiates, which not only kill pain but also cause savage constipation. Elvis's personal physician, George Nicopolis, or Dr. Nick, was at Elvis's beck and call for nearly a decade. He began treating the King for saddle pain in 1967, and all too soon Elvis turned into an opiate addict. Dr. Nick admitted at a hearing before the Tennessee Board of Health that he had prescribed thousands of doses of various addictive pills for Elvis, but also claimed he often slipped him sugar pills or placebos to try to control his addictions. Dr. Nick testified he gave in to all of Elvis's prescription requests because he wanted to keep Presley from seeking out these drugs on the street. The jury thought Dr. Nick was acting in the best interests of the patient, an extremely improbable conclusion reason, it seems, to this doctor, and was acquitted. In 1980, the not-so-good doctor was indicted again for overprescribing to Presley, as well as Jerry Lee Lewis, but was acquitted again. Nicopolis, however, continued to overprescribe to many other patients, and in 1995, the Tennessee Board of Medical Examiners finally and permanently suspended his medical license. Subsequent armchair diagnosticians and a few geneticists who claimed to have a lock of Elvis's hair and performed a DNA analysis of it have suggested Elvis had hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, a disease of the heart muscle in which there is thickening of the heart's walls, weakening and enlargement of the muscle itself, and ultimately heart failure or sudden cardiac death. Some of the symptoms of this problem include fatigue, fainting spells, and high blood pressure. Throw in the obesity Elvis suffered from near the end of his life, what appears to be type 2 diabetes, an enlarged heart, and a steady diet of unhealthy, fatty, and fried foods, along with his notorious prescription pill consumption, and you have the perfect prescription for disaster.
You know, a long time it was stated that Elvis, was a racist. He was not a racist. He's never been a racist.
More controversies. Although the details of Elvis's passing marked one of the most controversial moments in the history of the music industry, but there were other aspects of his life that people found equally as controversial, particularly his music. Music critics, journalists, academics, and fans have long debated the idea of Elvis as a white thief of black art. The truth of the matter is complicated. Rock and roll started with black rhythm and blues, also called R&B. Rock and roll is not, or was not, so much a distinct genre of music as it was a label that was applied to an existing musical form to market it to white teenagers, says Stephen Lewis, a curator of music and the performing arts at the Smithsonian's National Museum of African American History and Culture, NMAAHC. Rock and roll was rhythm and blues repackaged for white audiences. Rock and roll was indisputably pioneered by black artists such as Chuck Berry, Little Richard, and Bo Diddley. It's black music in the sense that it was invented by black artists, but as Lewis argues, that doesn't mean only black people can play music with origins in black culture. Elvis didn't steal black music simply by performing it. He consistently credited the artistry of his black predecessors and peers, so it would be disingenuous to label him a thief. While those charges didn't stick, there were also other stories about how the singer was racist. More recently, Quincy Jones revealed that he always refused to work with Elvis because he was a racist. The superstar producer explained, "No, I wouldn't work with him. I was writing for orchestra leader Tommy Dorsey, oh God, back then in the 50s, and Elvis came in, and Tommy said, I don't want to play with him. He was a racist mother. I'm going to shut up now." Meanwhile, Public Enemy's Fight the Power includes the lyric, "Elvis was a hero to most, but he never meant S to me, straight up racist. That sucker was simple and plain." While there's no cement evidence that Elvis was a racist, several people still seem to believe he undeniably appropriated black culture and repackaged it for the general public. The perspective also includes theories of how racism in American society allowed him to have such a fruitful career, and that it was something he leaned into consciously or subconsciously. While it is already established that the singer was different things to different people, the one thing that has remained undeniable from time immemorial is that his legacy as one of the world's most talented souls will never pass on. That's it. Goodbye.